Hello, and welcome to the Knit and Grace podcast sewing edition. Hi there, and welcome back if you are a returning viewer. If you are new here, my name is Mia, and I am the maker behind Knit and Grace. And on this channel, while we primarily get up to knitting and crochet and recently dabbling in spinning and all things fiber arts, you may or may not know that I am also a big sewist. And so my sewing has been something that has been part of my life my whole life. And during the pandemic, I really started exploring my own handmade wardrobe and actually sewing clothing for myself. And since then, I have turned out quite a few things. I will say that with sewing, I love the fact that I can tailor make everything to my body, and everything fits perfectly. So historically or in the past, I have kind of like put in some of my sewing into my knitting episodes as well, into my regular podcast episodes. But I figured that, especially with the summer, I do sew enough things that I can kind of isolate these from the main knitting podcast episodes. So today is going to be all about sewing. If you're here just for the knitting, I will see you in next week's episode. But if you're interested in sticking around, I hope that you enjoy this content as well. I'm probably going to structure these similar to the way that I structure my knitting podcasts, where I go over my recent finished objects, what I'm working on, and what I'm planning on making. And then I will probably be putting these out just a few times a year, maybe like 3 or 4 times a year. Because while I do sew a lot, the large majority of my sewing happens in the summer. And then I do still want to highlight some of like my project bags and things like that, and those sewing projects in my main knitting podcast, because those are kind of knitting related. So these podcast episodes are going to be just sewing that is not necessarily knitting related. So I won't highlight any of my project bags in these episodes. So now that you know what to expect from these episodes and from today's episode in particular, I just wanted to go over what I'm wearing today. And today I am wearing my Phoebe tank, which is a free pattern from the fabric store. I don't recall what size I sewed it up in, so I should look it up and insert the size here. I didn't make any modifications to this tank. It is sort of like a shapeless tank. There's no bust darts, no anything. And I did crop the body a bit. I will insert a picture of me wearing this one so you can see what that looks like. So this is like kind of like my go-to tank, and I actually need to sew up a few more of these because I wear this tank so much, like multiple times a week, every single week. It's in the wash every single week, and I need to like make sure that I immediately pull it out and iron it for its next wear. So definitely need to make more of this tank, and I actually do have plans to make another. So I will start with my finished objects. And so the first one that I'm going to start with is my one and only non garment item. So the first project that I have to show you is the Fennel Fanny Pack by Sarah Kirsten. And this is what it looks like. And so I did actually just shorten the straps. It does have adjustable straps just for ease of showing you all, but this is just a super cute little fanny pack. It has your main compartment, and it has a front compartment, and then this is what the back looks like here. And so I made this. There's only one size, and there are two ways of making it. I forget which way was the one that I chose, but I actually followed the tutorial by Sewing Therapy when I was making mine, and I absolutely love it. This is all made from scraps that I had from a previous project. So the main body is a duck canvas, which was scraps from my Firefly tote, which is noodle head design. And then my lining, so I actually have I have a sunglasses case in here so that it could stay rigid for you all. But my lining is just a quilter's cotton, or this beautiful print. And this is actually leftovers from my very first peppermint peplum top dress hack. It's a random bit of cotton that I found at a random fabric shop. No label or anything like that. But I remember that it reminded me of Rifle Paper Co. Fabric, so that's why I purchased it. And so I had some leftovers, so this was completely done up using leftovers. And it was actually a really fun project to sew up. It didn't take me long to cut. I think I cut and sewed it in the same day. There are some fiddly bits, so it's definitely more probably like of an advanced beginner project, but I absolutely enjoyed it, and I have worn it quite a bit this summer, and I always get compliments on it, and I'm actually planning on wearing it out tonight because we are going to go see the Barbie movie. And I don't own very many like really pink out there items, so that is going to be my pink item for the Barbie movie today. But I definitely want to make another. I've seen some inspiration ones of like quilted bags, and so I did find a post from someone who like enlarged it and posted the measurements. So I definitely want to give it a go in terms of using up some of my like linen scraps and making a nice quilted version. So I do have another version in my future. I don't know when I'll get up to it, but definitely want to make another one, especially one that also just bigger in general, because I want to be able to like, like stuff a little sock project or a little knitting project when I'm on the go in it as well. So the next project that I want to show you all are my Aranite pants by Sew Liberated. And so these are black, so you're not really going to be able to see very well. I will insert some footage of them, of me wearing them. I haven't had a chance to really take any sort of close-up pictures of these, but I will show you a little bit of close-up, although the lighting in here is atrocious today. It's meant to like thunderstorm later on, so clouds are in and out. So if my lighting today is bad, that's why. So these have like the pocket where it kind of, it has like an extra pocket. You are able to put in a pleat in the pocket if you want to bring it in. And then it has, let's see if we can catch this. You can kind of see it. They have a flat fell detail there. And Yeah, so for these particular pants, I used the Joanne linen rayon blend. So they're like sort of like workhorse linen yarn. I think, I want to say it's like 75% rayon, 25% linen, or something like that. And it's actually the same fabric that I made this Phoebe top out of. And so these pants had been cut out and waiting to be sewn for 2 years. And so I don't recall exactly how much fabric I actually used for the pants. So wherever I can, I will give you like the requirements, because I know when you follow the actual pattern, you usually, at least for me, I always end up with extra fabric. So I made these in the size 18. And I ended up, let's see, for modifications, I just cut off 5 inches, or shortened the length by 5 inches, because they are drafted for someone who is 5'5". I'm 4'11.5". So that's a pretty standard change that I make. So I did shorten them by 5 inches, made the size 18, no modifications from there. I always find so liberated patterns to actually run quite big. So um definitely it's been hit or miss when I make their patterns. So definitely if you're in the larger size range, I would recommend always toiling before cutting your fabric, because I've also made what's the skirt that I love? Um, and I actually have to go back, and I made it several years ago, and I have to go back and alter it because it's just way too big. I think I made like the size 22 based on their recommendation, and it was just like way too big. And even with these, I went off of, so with their patterns, I go off of the finished measurements. And so even after that, I usually end up having to alter like the waist. So where they recommended something like a 40-inch elastic or something for this size, my elastic length was much shorter. So where was I? I had to stop there to change out my battery. But yeah, I made the size 18. I shortened it by 5 inches. I don't recall exactly how much yardage I used for them, but I did buy the recommended 3 yards of fabric based on the 54-inch width, which the fabric was 54-inch width wide. And I was able to get not only the pants, but also this tank out of that fabric. So the funny thing is I've had this tank now for 2 years. I used it, kind of like cut it to use up the extras, sewed it pretty quickly, and then the poor pants just sat languishing forever, and I finally was able to sew them up. So the next two projects that I have to show you are actually the same, and one is my wearable toile, and the other is the finished version of the item, and it is the Sovi dress by Sew House 7, and this is my wearable toile. And so I made a combination of and I'll insert a picture of me wearing it here as well. I made a combination of views B and C, I want to say. So I made the gathered waist, so you actually insert an elastic, and it's fully lined. The inside of this dress is fully lined, and then with the lining you encase the waist elastic. And then what I did was I did make the side vents here. So yeah, I made the size 20 in their curve size. So that means that it's graded to a D um, bust cup. So that gives you a 4-inch difference between your upper and full bust, which is my measurement. And so yeah, so I did the size 20. In terms of that, the only modification again I did here was I did shorten it by 5 inches. No other modifications were needed after I made the wearable toile. And I used just about 2.5 yards of fabric. So for my wearable toile, I used a 100% cotton shirting that I picked up at Joann, and it was 44 inches. So what I did was I actually needed to, because I didn't want to like cut into tons of yardage just for the facings, or the lining, I should say. I actually had some lining fabric that I ended up lining that in. So I had the navy lining fabric that already matched. And so I chose to use that for the lining fabric. Now, if I had lined it in the same fabric, I would have probably ended up using about like 3 yards of fabric instead of the 2.5 yards, especially because, again, that cotton shirting was only 44 inches wide. So my final dress, which is a little wrinkled just because it is linen, I sewed up in this linen slub. So it's linen rayon slub. Again, it's from Joann. You can see that it has like some texture to the linen, and it is just super lovely, really nice. I think this one is mostly linen and just a bit of rayon. But again, we have the pockets, and then again, I did do the side vents. So this is what it looks like. I used a thicker waist elastic for this one. So for the other one, I didn't have the proper width of waist elastic, so I just used one that I already had. But for this one, I did have to purchase more, so I actually purchased the proper waist elastic. So the waist, I feel like, does look a little bit neater. And again, I'll also insert a picture of me wearing it. And I absolutely love how it turned out. I've worn it to the office a couple times, and I'll wear it by itself. Like if it's a more casual day where there are not a lot of people in the office. But I've also just thrown like my suit jacket over it, with my flats, and it looks really nice for the office. And it's just been a really great dress to have in the summer. So again, same modification. There were no changes done to the top of the dress, although next time I sew it with a heavier fabric, I likely will just shorten the straps just a little tiny bit. It doesn't quite expose my bra, but it's just at like that. Sorry, I have like something like a hair or something on my face. But it just to that point where like if I move the wrong way, you might see a little bit of my bra in the back. But I love it because it is bra friendly. I can even wear my bralette with the blue version. I wouldn't be able to wear my bralette with the beige version because, again, it is a little heavier. So that's where I would, again, not make any modifications to the top portion itself, but actually just to the strap length, which you can adjust. So again, I used 2.5 yards of fabric. Since I had already made the toile, I knew that I only needed to purchase 2.5 yards, which was great. And that particular fabric, as most of Joann linen fabrics are, was 54 inches. So what I did to also line the dress in the exact same fabric, so I'll show you. This is, like the regular outside of the dress, and then it's just lined in the same exact fabric. So what I did was the front piece I was able to cut on the fold like normal, but then the back piece I actually let's see if you can see it there. Yeah, so you can actually see through. So the back piece I actually cut in two pieces. I added in the seam allowance and seam those pieces, and so that allowed me to cut the entire dress out of 2.5 yards of fabric instead of needing to buy 3 yards. I think for this particular size, the pattern does say to purchase 4 yards of fabric, so that's quite a big difference. Again, part of it is because I am chopping off 5 inches, so that's a total of 10 inches across both pieces. So that's not an insignificant amount. And then also because I'm usually on the smaller end of the large size range. I always am able to tile my pieces before cutting a lot more advantageously than what is suggested in the pattern. So I always end up saving fabric that way. And personally, I would rather buy too much fabric, not too much because I'm buying the amount of fabric that the pattern calls for. And know that I'm going to have some left over than not have enough fabric. But that's just, again, a byproduct of my being, one, extremely short, and two, on the smaller size of the larger size ranges. So usually most patterns will give you like one fabric requirement for the smaller size range and one fabric requirement for the larger size ranges. And so that's why I like to share that information with people, so that if you're also in a similar situation, maybe you can save on buying some extra fabric. So the next and last finished project that I have to share with you is my birthday dress. And so if you caught my vlog from last week, this is the dress that I was working on in that vlog. And it is the Austin dress by Grainline Studio. And so this is what it looks like. These are the buttons that run all along the side. It does have this sort of opening here. The pattern does suggest that you have a little elastic closure, but I actually like it just like that. I think that the V is very modest. It's not very deep, so I don't think that that needs to be closed. And so I made the view B, I want to say. I think it's two views. Yeah, so I think I made the view B, which has the patch pockets and the gathered skirt, and view A just has a straight A-line skirt and no patch pockets. But it still has the button detail. So that's kind of the statement of this dress, is the side buttons. For my fabric, I use Merchant and Mills 100% linen, and this is their Louisiana linen. And then for my buttons, I use these organic wood buttons that I picked up at Joann. I think, hold on, let's see if it'll focus better this way. I hope that's focusing so you all can see those. But yes, absolutely love this dress. I've worn it a couple times now. Maybe I'll wear this dress tonight to go to Barbie. What do you think? When you're seeing this, it'll definitely be after, so I'll let you know if I wore it or not. But yes, oh, and I put in a little Kylie in the Machine tag. I don't always put tags in my dresses, but sometimes I like to, and because this was my sort of birthday dress, I decided to. So the sizing, I worked size 20, and with regard to modifications, I had to decrease the arm scythe, so both on the front and the back, by 1/2 inch, so a total of 1 inch, so that it didn't fall too low. And that was the only modification that I made to the bodice of the dress. And then, of course, again, the length of the dress is a 5-inch difference. So I did shorten the length by 5 inches. And so I think 5'5" is like a pretty standard height that most indie sewing pattern makers draft to. So I always just look at what the height that the pattern is drafted for, and I make my modifications from there. Sometimes if it's like a pants and they're not meant to be like high-waisted, I will take some from the rise and then some from the leg. And then if they're high-waisted pants, I'll only take it from the leg. With a dress, it's pretty simple. You just take it from wherever their length and shorten lines are, and make your adjustments from there. So with regard to the yardage, it is unknown, and the reason for that is because I did a bit of pattern matching. I didn't perfectly pattern match because after a while I was just like, I learned a lot with this dress. This was the first time that I was making something that's a fully plaid fabric and trying to pattern match. So because I pattern matched, I don't have a full width of the fabric piece left, although I do have pretty substantial, almost the full width of the fabric left. And this is 150 centimeter fabric, which is, I believe, like 60-inch width, so it's pretty wide. I did purchase the amount that was recommended based on the width for the fabric, which I believe was just under 4 yards of fabric. Now, because I pattern matched, I used a lot more fabric than if I hadn't pattern matched. So if this was a pattern that I wouldn't need to pattern match for, then I probably would have used, you know, like 2.5 yards of fabric, because the fabric is actually extremely wide. Again, it's close to 60 inches wide. That said, I do have very large, substantial pieces left of the fabric. So I am still going to be able to make something else from the fabric, but I can't exactly tell you how much my yardage was. So I did purchase about 4 yards of the fabric, and I don't have any like half or full yards left of the full width of the fabric. What else to say? I think that's all I have to say about the dress. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I've gotten tons of compliments on it, and I definitely think I will make a couple more in the future. This is a bra friendly dress, but it's not bralette friendly, because it is actually quite low, and also the straps, while they're thick, they're not like super thick. So like my bralettes fit more like kind of like my tank does. And then they're higher up because they're more kind of like sports bra style. So with this dress, I do need to wear a proper bra, but it is very bra friendly. And that is all I have to say about that one. So now I'll talk about my 2 works in progress that I have going. And one of them you guys will think is crazy, because my wearable toile of the Austin dress is actually still not finished, but I finished the actual dress. So that's what I'm going to show you first. And so that is this beauty right here. And again, I used that same cotton shirting that I had from Joann. So as you can see, I was able to get a dress and a tunic out of it. So what I did here was, again, this is 100% cotton shirting, and it's just like this beautiful blue color. So what I did here, because it is 44 inches, oh, and I should say I did modify some of the way that I cut the dress. So I cut the back and the skirt pieces both on the fold, as opposed to, and then just eliminated the seam allowance so that I wouldn't have to pattern match as much. And then I did cut the front on, you know, because you have that opening, so you do have to cut the 2 pieces. So I did the same here, where the front is cut in 2 pieces, and then, you know, my back and sort of the ruffle is cut on the fold. So what I did here was, when I did this, because I was cutting the front on, you know, the 2 pieces and then the back on the fold, I was able to lay it out across the top of the fabric. So again, I had about 1.5 yards left of this fabric. So I was able to do that across the top. And then what I did was I made my bias tape in just some navy fabric that I had, so I didn't have to cut into any more of the fabric. And then I essentially had, you know, the rest of the fabric, so I think almost a full yard, or a little bit over a full yard left of the fabric. And then what I did was I just cut that in half and then determined that would be the length of the top. So this is a tunic length. It's not quite like a short top length. It is a tunic length. And so the entire project is pretty much finished, except for the fact that it needs it's buttonholes and buttons. So I just need to, I actually even have them marked. I'm not sure if you can see, you can kind of see it right there. So I have all my buttonholes marked and buttons marked. I just have to actually make them. And then also sew on the buttons. I actually bought some red buttons for this, which I thought would be really fun for a summer top. So that was my wearable twirl of the Austin dress that I still haven't finished, even though I finished the proper dress itself. So I do hope to finish that in the next couple of weeks and wear it before summer is out. I think it's just really nice. It'll be really nice with the red buttons to wear with like my white jeans and, you know, my sandals. And I think it's just like, it'll be like the perfect summer look. So again, it is the size 20. I did shorten the arm side, both front and back, by 1/2 inch. So for a total of 1 inch off of the armhole depth. And then, yeah, in terms of the skirt, it's just however much fabric I had left. So that used, I would say, just a tiny bit over 1.5 yards of fabric. So I love the fact that now I've completely used up that fabric and I have no more of the fabric left. And yeah, that's really exciting when you're able to just fully use something up and not have any more in your stash. And so the next work in progress that I have, I did show in my vlog. So if you've seen that, they are the Megan Nielsen flint pants, and they have just been cut. And also all of my interfacing has been applied. So I literally just need to sew these. This is 100% linen from Joann, and of course black is not the best color to show you here, but it is a little bit slubby, which I like. And it is a little bit of it's like a midweight, so it's a bit heftier than my other pair of Megan Nielsen flint pants, which I'll insert a picture for you here. Those I made in the rayon linen blend from Joann, which is quite light. So these are, you know, a nice mid-weight, and I think that these will be good for, these probably would not be good for summer, because actually it is a bit heavy. So these will be good like for a fall, winter, spring pair of linen pants. So I had meant to finish those last weekend when we came home from vacation, but I was just too exhausted to do it, and I didn't want to like force myself to do anything. So those are my 2 works in progress at the moment. And so I want to chat you through some of my making plans for the rest of the summer. As I'm filming this, it is July 29th today. So we still have a good 2 months left of summer. So that's probably when my next sewing podcast will go up. Will probably go up at the end of September. So I wanted to show you all some of the fabrics that I have and the plans that I have for them. So first up is this beautiful gingham from Merchant and Mills that I also picked up with my birthday fabric. And so this is beautiful. It's just this beautiful green, and I'm not sure that you can actually see in the screen, but it's actually pink. It's not white. And that's what attracted me to this fabric. So it's just beautiful. I think I got maybe like 1.5 meters. I didn't get a full 2 yards of this. I know that for sure. And, or I may have gotten 2 yards of it. I'll have to look at my invoice, but, this is one of their linens, and I plan on making the Florence dress, or it's a dress and a top, but I plan on making the top version out of this fabric, which is also designed by Merchant and Mills. So the next fabric that I have is this beautiful apricot colored linen that I picked up from Joann. I want to say last year. And this one is 100% linen. And so it's not their rayon linen blend. It is 100% linen. It's just this beautiful apricot color. And I have been obsessed with the apron dress concept. Just one, because they're really cute and adorable, but also love the fact that, you know, as your body fluctuates, your clothing is always going to fit you. So I want to make an apron dress out of this fabric. And so I'm planning on hacking the Sovi dress pattern into an apron dress. So I'm really excited about that. And so that's going to be something that I am going to work on this summer. I might document the process. I'm not 100% sure because sometimes with sewing, I just like to kind of just put my head down and just go to work. So we'll see if I document the process or not. But the next fabric that I have here is the leftover from my birthday fabric. And so, yeah, I plan on making another Phoebe tank out of this. So I'll have to figure out how to measure this, maybe by like square inch or something to figure out how much of this fabric I have. But I definitely have enough to make another Phoebe tank because this tank is literally just 2 pieces, and then I'll probably use a different fabric for the bias binding. So that will use up the last of this fabric, and I'll be happy that I can use up every last bit. And then the last project that I have planned is the Hannah dress. I forget who the designer is. I will put it in here. It's by Hand London, I want to say. It's the Hannah, and it's a wrap dress. And I like it because it's a wrap dress with a gathered skirt. And I feel like a lot of wrap dresses, or a lot of wrap dress patterns don't have gathered skirts. And so that's exactly what I'm looking for. And I am going to be making it out of this rayon linen slub. So again, this is the same one as my cream colored Sovi dress, but it's in this olive color. Not even olive, it's actually a sage green. It's much lighter than olive. It's a sage green. And so I'm going to be making that dress. I think I have 5 yards of this one, if I remember correctly. I hope I do, because it'll be my first time making the dress, and I think it is a little bit of a yardage guzzler. But I am planning on making that dress for our cousin's wedding. So one of our cousins is getting married up in Vermont in September, and so I'm going to make myself the Hannah wrap dress as my wedding guest dress. I assume, not necessarily assume, but it's going to be much more of like a casual wedding. So I wanted to just, have something nice and drapey and flowy that I can just, be comfortable in all day. She's getting married, I think outdoors, and then the reception is in a barn. So kind of like give you that kind of, feel. So I think that the green of the dress will look beautiful with the just starting to turn leaves up in Vermont around that time. And I'll be able to wear it with some like wedge heels, and I'll be comfortable, and then also have a dress that I can wear all the time, not just for weddings. So really excited about that one. So that's all I have for you all today. Another lengthy episodes. I always feel like these episodes are not going to be super lengthy, but especially because I don't really have a place to document my sewing. I probably went into a little bit more detail on some of these projects than I do my knitting projects. But if you've made it this far, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know. Leave me a comment letting me know what you've been up to while watching this video. Let me know if you are sewing, what you're sewing on, if you're knitting, what you're knitting on, how your summer is going so far. I hope that summer is treating you well. Here in the Northeast, the weather has been very strange, so I don't know, who knows what the summer is gonna hold for us for the remaining 2 months of summer. But yeah, I've been able to get a lot of sewing, a lot of knitting done this summer, and I'm really excited for the next couple of months coming up, especially as I get ready for some bigger events that are going on in our family. And so I will leave you here. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.